Hey everyone, and welcome! Today we're going to learn the language of data. We're pulling back the curtain to see how just one simple command can find a needle in a digital haystack. All right, let's jump right in.
So think about it for a second. You click on My Orders on some shopping website, and boom, in less than a second, your entire history is right there. It feels like magic, right? Well, it's not. There's actually a really powerful conversation happening behind the scenes, and today we're going to learn the exact language it's spoken in. Every single click, every purchase, every time you log in, all of that creates data. Businesses, websites, you name it, they're all sitting on these massive, and I mean massive, digital oceans of information. Trying to find one specific answer in all that noise, it's like trying to find one specific drop of water. So, how on earth do you navigate that?
Well, you navigate it with a special tool. Think of it like a universal translator that lets us speak directly to the databases where all this info is stored. And in this first part, we are going to meet that translator. Its name is SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. Okay, that sounds a little technical, but it's really just a fancy way of saying it's the language we use to ask databases questions. It's the universal standard, basically the one language that pretty much every database out there understands. It lets you have a direct, clear conversation with your data. Now, I know what you might be thinking. When you hear language for databases, your mind probably jumps to complex, scary-looking code. But here's the cool thing about SQL. It's not really like that. It's much more like learning a little bit of grammar. You're not building a machine, you're just learning how to ask a really, really specific question so you can get a really specific answer back. So, how does it actually work? Let's get our hands dirty and actually see this language in action. We're going to build our very first query together, one step at a time, so you can see just how logical and honestly how simple it can be.
Okay, imagine this is our database. Super simple, right? It's just a little table called students, and it's got 3 columns: an ID for each student, their name, and the marks they got on a test. Our goal is to ask this table for some very specific info.
Our question always starts with the word select. This command basically tells the database, hey, these are the columns I'm interested in. So select name marks means just show me the name and marks columns. Then from students tells it which table to look in. See? It's already starting to sound like a real sentence, right?
And just like that, the database answers back. Notice the ID column is gone? That's because it gave us exactly what we asked for, a new little table with only the name and marks columns. We've successfully picked out just the pieces we care about. But what if we want to get even more specific?
Okay, let's build on that. Now we add a where clause. This is our filter. This is the real power. We're now saying, show me the names and marks from the students table. But only show me the ones where the marks are greater than 60. This is how we start to zero in on exactly what we need. And there's our result. Take a look. Bob and Diana, who had scores of 55 and 60, they're gone from the list. The where clause has perfectly filtered our data, leaving only the students who scored above 60. This is getting pretty useful, but we can make it even better. The last piece of our puzzle is order by. This command does exactly what it sounds like. It sorts our results. So by adding order by marks DESC, we're telling the database, okay, take that filtered list you just made and arrange it with the highest marks right at the top. That DESC just stands for descending. And look at that. This is the power of a complete query. In one single logical sentence, we told the database to select specific columns, filter them with a condition, and then sort them in a useful way. We turned a messy little table into a clean, prioritized answer to our question. Okay, so we've seen how this works with a tiny little student table. But what makes SQL so incredibly powerful is that this exact same logic applies to databases with millions or even billions of rows. This is what's powering massive, real-world decisions every single day. So here's how it plays out in a real job. It almost always starts with a simple business question. Something like, hey, what are our best-selling products this quarter? That question gets translated into an SQL query, which looks a whole lot like the one we just wrote. And in return, the database gives back a direct, data-driven answer that can shape a whole company's strategy. And you really do see this stuff everywhere, even if you don't realize it.
When a bank teller pulls up your customer record, that's probably SQL. When a website generates its daily sales report, or a warehouse has to manage its entire inventory, yep. Behind almost all of these actions is an SQL query doing all the heavy lifting.
So, after seeing all of this, what's the big takeaway? What does this all mean for you? Well, understanding these basic principles gives you a new kind of literacy. It's almost like a superpower, the ability to speak the native language of data.
And at its core, that's really what this is all about. It's not about becoming some master coder. It's about knowing how to have a conversation, how to ask for precisely what you need from a database, and how to get it instantly.
And this is why this skill is so incredibly valuable. It's the bridge that takes you from that chaotic ocean of information we talked about to a clear, simple answer that you can actually use. It literally turns raw data into real knowledge.
So, I'll just leave you with this thought. Every organization, every project, pretty much every website is built on a foundation of data. Now that you understand the basic grammar for talking to it, what questions would you ask? What answers are you ready to go out and uncover?